y'all. I hope you're doing well today. I wanted to jump in and talk about an issue that I see facing a lot of women that are facing a breast cancer diagnosis. And this isn't just an update about me. It's not an update about me at all, really. It's an issue that I have previously indicated that I wanted to talk about, and I just haven't because my videos have run long. So I wanted to talk about it here, and I would love to get feedback in the comments on what different people in different places see with their insurance companies while they are trying to complete treatment for cancer. It's interesting to me because I saw a comment on a Facebook page, like a support group that I'm on, and someone was sharing her frustration with her insurance company. And she made a comment at the very end, and it just is so right. She was just spot on about the fact that her comments were not a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. It was not a political issue. It was really like a human issue with the folks that work at insurance companies. So this isn't like a political slant that she was talking about, and I happen to agree with her. So the story that was shared on this support group was of a woman who was going through breast cancer treatment. She had a tumor in her, the cancer had spread into her lymph nodes, and she had a good insurance company, a good insurance policy. She has a good job. And I'm assuming when the hospital submitted her surgery pre-authorization, the insurance came back, and the immediate answer was that she was not covered for removing the cancer from her lymph nodes. And obviously, I don't have every exact detail about what happened in her circumstance, but she was expressing the frustration that she knows that the insurance company is going to cover her surgery, but that it's just not right or fair that the knee-jerk response to her or to her doctor or physician is that they're not going to cover it, and that she has to deal with calling them and calling her doctor's office and figuring it out and making sure that it was right and that everything went through in the middle of fighting for her life with a cancer diagnosis. It's just not right. And that all of the headache that you have with fighting insurance companies and FMLA and making sure that your FMLA is covered and making sure your disability insurance kicks in or is covered is just so difficult to get through, and you are in the middle of one of the hardest experiences that you will ever face, and it's just not right. It's just not right. And I think I have been sitting on her comment in her post for the last week or so because I totally understand where she is coming from. I mean, she is in the best situation where she has coverage, she has a job, she ultimately knows that it's going to be taken care of, but she's having to fight for it. She's not someone that is facing the battle of not having insurance, not having the right kind of insurance. From what I gather, she's probably in one of the best case scenarios or better case scenarios regarding insurance coverage. And I think I relate to that in the sense that I have pretty good insurance. I mean, knock on wood, up until, up through now, everything that I have had to do has been covered through my insurance with work, and that has been very, very good. I had to pay my, all of the out-of-pocket deductibles and co-pays and things like that. So it's not like it doesn't cost me anything. I mean, it's been expensive, but it could be so much worse. And I see how there are people that don't have the best insurance policies, and they're struggling. They're having to figure that out as they get treatment. And so I am definitely not going to complain about that. I'm blessed that I have insurance, and that it has covered everything. However, I've gone through the exact same situation where, especially with this last surgery that I had, I may have talked about this, about how I was getting ready to go into surgery. I had less than 24 hours notice that, okay, you have an appointment today, your skin's failing, we need to get you in tomorrow, and having to figure all of that out in a day, less than a day really, and getting a phone call from the hospital saying that my insurance coverage had denied the surgery, which I knew that wasn't right, that my insurance policy was going to cover it, and that that the hospital was mistaken. And this is kind of on the whole process, not just insurance companies, maybe hospital systems too. I'm pretty upset that the hospital system called me and made it seem like I was gonna have to self-pay for my surgery, and wanted me to sign a document that I was gonna self-pay for my surgery because the insurance company had denied my coverage. And in that period of time, in that little window of time, I had to make so many phone calls to my insurance company and get to a nurse approver who was looking over my file, who had just gotten it. I mean, it wasn't like she was trying to not, approve me. There just hadn't been enough time. And what I actually found out was that they never denied my surgery in my specific situation. They had never denied my surgery. They just hadn't gotten to the claim yet, because we're talking about a couple of hours. But the hospital system called me to tell me that it hadn't, that had been denied. Now, I made some comments about that and expressed my frustration. And of course, y'all know me, like, I made sure that I wrote everything down. I had the nurse approver, or the nurse, I guess that's what they called her when I was calling all of the different numbers, trying to figure out who in my insurance company I could talk to get this expedited. But she made sure that she looked at it before she went home that night, on that Monday night, and got everything approved. I had an approval number, like an authorization number, that everything was going to be covered. And I wrote all of that when I checked into the hospital. Like, I wrote all of that stuff down and submitted that to the hospital, saying that I would not self-pay. You can give me a self-pay form, but here is all of the information. This is what I'm, giving to you. And they realized that I was serious and took it, and everything has been okay. So the issue really was the stress that it put me under after everything else I've gone through. And there's been a few other times where I've had to make phone calls to people to make sure that my insurance was covering everything, or or explaining that I've met my deductible, I can see everything online. There's been a situation where things have been billed improperly, and I'd get an out-of-pocket charge where it was the wrong amount, And I'd have to go back and be like, no, this didn't happen, or this appointment was canceled, or by the doctor, not by me. So, things like that you have to stay on every bill, everything. And it seems like in order to get the coverage that you pay for, that you have to be paying attention yourself, because if it feels like if you can be taken advantage of, you're going to be taken advantage of. And that's just not right. That is not it is not the right thing to do when you are dealing with someone fighting for their life, or sick, or anything. Even if you're not, even if you just have, a cold or allergies or whatever. Insurance companies, doctors' offices, I mean, they are not always helpful, and they can be very hurtful, and traumatic to folks that really are going through tough times. And that's just frustrating to me. It's just frustrating. It's not right. It's not right what they decide to cover, or what doctors say. There's comments that get made about, well, we don't know if we can do something because of insurance. And I remember when I was first diagnosed incorrectly, in my opinion. Well, I hadn't had the thorough check, and I was having to really push to make sure I was getting the right scans and all of those things. I don't want to say incorrectly, because, I guess technically it was incorrect, but it just wasn't a thorough, I didn't feel like I was being thoroughly diagnosed, and my diagnosis actually changed because of that. I digress. In the middle of all of that, when I first found out that I had breast cancer, my immediate reaction was that I wanted a bilateral mastectomy. And that is something that I've always said. If I ever get breast cancer, my boobs are not that important to me in the sense of my life. I have kids. I want them gone. And I don't care what the data says about that. That's just personal. These are personal decisions you have to make. And so I wanted I knew that wasn't going to be a conversation. I just wanted both of them. And the surgeon at the time kind of was like, well, you may not get to make that decision. You're probably only going to have like one taken off. And I was like, well, no, that's not the case. But her comment was, well, the reason I say that is because insurance won't always cover a bilateral. And my insurance does cover that. So I don't know if there's women out there that have been told that and it didn't cover both, and you wanted both. I have seen legislation that makes that very questionable to me, that is still happening. I know it probably did at one point, but there are protections now about that. And I would be interested if y'all have, please note in the comment. I'm just curious to know how common that is. Now, if that's your personal decision, I'm not even going to comment on that, because that's your personal decision. And I'm totally okay with that. I just don't like an insurance company having a say over your care, because the insurance company is not the doctor. And honestly, when doctors make comments like that, that makes me feel some kind of way too, because it shouldn't be about that. The insurance company should do what's right, and in a situation that is just so intensely personal. You're talking about your breasts. You're right. That's part of who you are. You're removing part of your body. I believe that it should be a no-brainer. You do what makes you feel comfortable, and definitely what the doctor feels comfortable. I think, doctors would feel comfortable about that, but maybe I'm wrong. So anyways, I just think that it's just not fair that we have to fight so hard to get all this paperwork, all of, making sure that you have every little detail about policies and rules and regulations. I mean, talking about FMLA or disability, there's waiting periods with disability. FMLA, I'm in the middle of all of that right now, where you're having to have all of these forms constantly adjusted, and the differences between continuous leave and intermittent leave, and all of the forms that you have to have all of these different doctors sign. It just is a lot. It is emotionally exhausting to even think about it, much less get it all done. And, one of the things that I've kind of been struggling with, and struggling is a hard word, because I've actually been very, very blessed. I mean, where I work, I didn't have enough leave, like vacation leave, sick leave, to cover all of the time that I have had to take off with all of my cancer treatment since February. The end of February is when I started my cancer treatment. I didn't have enough personal leave, sick leave of just myself. And my, where I work, they allow donated leave. And that has been very helpful to me, because I've been out on FMLA and I haven't missed a paycheck. And that is really it has been such a blessing for my family, because I have 3 kids. I mean, we're a 2-income family. So to all of a sudden not have a paycheck is the scariest thing in the world for us. So, I've been very blessed, and I'm hitting that period of time now where my FMLA is running out, and disability, if I go on disability, then I have to have a 90-day waiting period. So then at this point, I'm already, that would mean that I would lose a paycheck. And the fact that you have to do that, the fact that I have to get another note to go back and forth between continuous leave and intermittent leave, or working from home or not working from home. I have cancer. I'm in active treatment. All of that stuff changes. And hopefully when I start working again in the next couple of weeks or less, I won't have to go back on a continuous leave, because my surgery, I'm praying that my surgeries have ended for now, and that I stay, good, in the treatment plan that I have, where I can work and get treatment. And I hope that happens and I'm good, but those are things that keep me up at night and my family up at night, and they make you fight for it. Even in the best case scenarios, like I said, which I am in. I know I have talked to people that have lost jobs, that they don't have the leave, they don't have the insurance, they can't go to the doctor that they want to go to. They have to get, they're not in network, or they just can't make their own decisions, and insurance is very, very hard to work with. So I get that. It is frustrating. And I think I've talked about this in one of my earlier videos about the frustrating part of my policy. So I have a state policy. Well, the state policy of what I have with my insurance company expressly excludes what they call cranial prosthesis, which is a wig. And I raised a lot of concerns and upset about that, because good wigs, now there's a lot of different opinions about this. I'm not, I really don't want to get into a debate on good versus, good wigs, not good wigs, or whatever, but human hair wigs are thousands of dollars, and I had no idea that was a thing. And there are wigs that you can get on Amazon that are very inexpensive, and then there are and it goes all the way up to where it's, you can find some really great synthetic wigs that are hundreds of dollars. And then they go up to the thousands of dollars. That's usually the real hair. Well, even synthetic wigs that are hundreds of dollars, like the good, like synthetic wigs, I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, I think of everything in terms of how much my kids' extracurricular activities cost, how much my son's day school costs, you know, food, clothing. I mean, I have 3 kids that are constantly growing. I mean, gas, every little payment that we have, I'm like, well, is that wig worth, you know, my car payment? I mean, is it? The fact that it's expressly excluded as something that can be covered under an insurance policy, where it, you know, that's frustrating to me, because that's part of your identity. That's one of the things that cancer takes from you, is what you look like, how you feel, the emotional trauma to that is real. And I am in a fairly public role where, you know, I have meetings that are televised. You know, I have where the press are, you know, at every one of my meetings. My full-time job is a public position, and it takes a toll when someone looks at you and you are bald and they know you are sick. I mean, I think one of the first times that I really felt like I had cancer and I was sick was seeing myself after chemo with no hair and looking sick. And I didn't like that. I don't like looking sick. You know, I feel like I'm starting to look better now because I'm not on the chemo anymore, and my energy is slowly starting to go up, and I'm getting, you know, I have hair coming in, but I'm still, I mean, I have a hat on right now, but, you know, like, I'm still bald. I mean, a stranger walking down the street will know that I have cancer. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that that is something that you have to adjust to, and come on, insurance companies can do better. And I'm really talking about this because I've spoken to my local state rep, and he had thought that our General Assembly had addressed that a few years ago when they were addressing different types of issues with the state insurance policies and what it covers and things like that. And he's actually submitted a request to see if legislation can change to include include that coverage in state employee policies. I don't know what will happen in January when that gets introduced. You know, it all comes down to money and the budget. And look, I'm reasonable. I understand that. But that's something that I'm gonna, you know, advocate for, and that I think it should be covered. And I think that it's just another example of how insurance companies try to carve out things that they don't think will be noticed when you're looking at a policy, and they know that they can cut it out, and it really, people probably won't fight for it, and it saves them money. And maybe that's just presumptuous, but that's kind of how I feel. And yeah, so it's just one of those things that you learn about and deal with when you have a serious diagnosis, and you have to use that insurance policy that you pay for. You know, the thing about insurance, you get it and you hope you never have to use it. But if you do have to use it, you want it to be there to help you and not to stress you out. That's really the theme of what I'm trying to say out of all of this. And that I've heard so many women talk about how they've had challenges with insurance, and that's just not right. So talk to me about your situation. I'd love to know how things are different in different places. Or if you think that you have, I mean, maybe you don't even have these issues. I don't know, but I would love to hear about it. So drop a comment if you don't mind. This is something I'm probably going to follow for a little while, and I'm curious to know where you're from, and if you've had any issues with your insurance company not covering anything. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd love for you to subscribe. And we'll see you next week and give an update on my plastic surgeon appointment next Tuesday. So I hope everyone has a great weekend, and I'll see you then.